Today, I have a glove story for you. Not a love story, a glove story. A nitrile glove story. Of course, gloves have become very, very much in demand during the pandemic. But of course, even before the pandemic, gloves were widely used by doctors, nurses, and also, of course, we use them in the laboratory to protect our hands from various chemicals. Nitrile gloves, and therein lies an interesting story. There are many, many materials that can be used to make gloves. Latex, of course, is one that's natural rubber, but there are some people who are allergic to natural rubber. Then there's another problem with natural rubber, and is that it is not widely available. Now that takes us back to the 1920s and 1930s between the two world wars in Germany. Germany had discovered during the First World War how important rubber was to the military effort. But they also found that they were easily cut off from their natural rubber supplies. So there was a big demand to come up with a synthetic version of rubber. And chemists at the IG Farben company in Germany were charged with this task. They discovered that if they would take butadiene, a chemical that could be isolated from petroleum, and mix it with styrene, which was also available from petroleum, react them together in the presence of sodium, they would get a polymer that behaved as a rubbery material. They called it Buna-S. Bu for butadiene, Na for the sodium that was used as a catalyst, and S, of course, for styrene. The trouble was that this new polymer was not very resistant to oil, so it didn't work very well in hoses, like in car engines and in gaskets. But in 1934, German chemists found that if they substituted acrylonitrile for some of the styrene, they would come up with something that was called Buna-N for butadiene, Na for sodium, and N for the acrylonitrile that was used. This was a very, very useful rubber because it was resistant to oil. And the Germans, of course, used it extensively during the Second World War, very, very effectively. After the war, it found a lot of use in gaskets, hoses, and, of course, today in gloves. I particularly like these, not only because of the chemistry involved, but also because they are mauve colored. And that is my favorite color. As some of you know my stories because I've told them often enough, mauve was the first synthetic dye made in 1856 by William Henry Perkin, and that process launched the chemical industry. And that for today is our Cup of Joe. And that's our glove story.